Millions of marijuana plants are now out of remote areas throughout Northern California and Southern Oregon.
California is the top marijuana producing state in the nation. Oregon's not far behind. Newswatch 12's Amy Sinecki joins us now with an in-depth look at who's running these gardens and what it takes for law enforcement to take them out.
So far this year, more than 7 million marijuana plants have been seized from outdoor gardens in the state of California. That number has dramatically increased over the past few years. Just 4 years ago, law enforcement found 6 million fewer plants than it did this year alone. Meanwhile, in Oregon, 195,000 plants were seized from outdoor gardens statewide. That is more than double the amount from 2008. The DEA says that's due to two reasons. One is the fact that law enforcement is doing a better job at finding marijuana, and the other is simply more pot is being grown.
This is the money.
It's a drug trade driven by demand and cold, hard cash.
This is a money crop. That's the whole reason they're out there doing this, is because it's big money.
In one bust alone, a multi-agency effort turned up more than 200,000 pot plants in Siskiyou County. That accounts for about $1 billion in lost profit to marijuana growers.
They'll process all this bud, strip all the leaves.
Each of these pot plants has a price tag of $3,000 to $5,000. This two-day operation off of Highway 96 northwest of Wairika is the largest single seizure of marijuana plants in Siskiyou County history, and one of the largest ever in the state.
It is easy to grow here, and that without having to try to get across the border. I mean, their network, they distribute across the nation, they distribute across Canada.
Instead of smuggling in this cash crop, drug cartels are more often growing marijuana in our national forests, and those gardens are yielding truckloads of pot worth millions of dollars.
I started in the 80s when people were growing a large garden for us. What we'd find out in the mountains like this would probably be, 25 to 50 plants. At that time, we weren't using helicopters. We bundled these things up and we took them out on our backs.
Now it takes help from the air and SWAT teams to take out these gardens.
We started seeing this back around 2000 and 2002 is when we really started finding out how big the scope of this was. We started running into cartel gardens and not really knowing what we had.
Our national forests, those are treasures. I mean, the pristine forest, the national parks, this is where people want to go and, maybe bicycle or hike or fish and camp. And when they have marijuana traffickers that are heavily armed in some instances that are growing marijuana on our public lands, that presents a clear and present danger.
This marijuana operation near Mount Shasta was just 3 miles from Lake Siskiyou and popular trails.
Now, if a unsuspecting hiker happens to get off the beaten track and stumbles into one of their grows, they can be encountered at gunpoint, and in some instances, they've even been, shot at or shot.
The gardens are usually run by Mexican nationals.
A lot of times the families are held captive or kidnapped and under threat if they lose the garden, or if something does happen to this cash crop, the families could be threatened.
Which is why they man their crop 24 hours a day from spring to fall, doing everything they can to protect it.
They'll have a manager, and the manager who oversees the entire garden and the whole operation. And he'll make scheduled drops. And what he does with these drops is he drops off food, he drops off equipment, and it's usually like at least a week's worth of food.
This abandoned base camp was found in Josephine County back in 2006. There you find anything from shampoo and pots and pans to fertilizer. And this scene is all too familiar to local law enforcement.
They'll actually create a reservoir, and they'll take an old tarp and they'll put it down into the reservoir that they dig, and then they'll put water in it, whether it be they find an underwater stream or it be from rainwater that they'll collect. But they'll actually fill this reservoir with water and they'll run their drip system off it.
This drip system is just one of the ways eradication teams can tell this organized crime is based out of Mexico or even a West Coast state.
There's the lifestyles and a lot of times we find religious artifacts and stuff.
But in those gardens, they also find dangerous weapons.
There has not been one garden that we've gone into over the years where we haven't at least found rifles, handguns, or ammunition to these kind of guns. We'll find anything from 22s to AK-47s to 300 Winchester Magnums.
Obviously, we're not going to solve this problem by just arresting people. We need to educate people on some of the harmful effects of marijuana and the dangers involved, and let them actually view the big picture.
These marijuana operations fuel other drugs. Even though there's been a dramatic decrease in the number of meth labs in Oregon, Mexican and Asian drug trafficking organizations are increasing imports into our region. They are bringing in meth, heroin, and cocaine. A big reason why local, state, and federal agencies are willing to foot the bill and nip these marijuana operations in the bud. This year, Jackson County Sheriff's Office made 18 federal indictments. The Siskiyou County Sheriff's Office says it also has 2 cases at the federal level. In addition, there have been a few dozen local arrests, but police say it takes a lot of legwork to arrest those running cartel gardens. In fact, when I was out in Mount Shasta in the helicopter, they were pursuing 2 men, and they got away. But police say and they just spend a lot of time in the forest, really know that area, and can run quickly.
I know this is the first of several more parts that are going to be aired on this topic.
That's right. Yeah, coming up tomorrow at Newswatch 12 at 6, we'll look at the environmental effects, and I'll show you where they live and what kinds of things we find there, pesticides, trash, and that kind of thing.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.